Alright, what you've all been waiting for. Back to Hetalia High School. Chapter 3. I'm gonna fail this course. As a few weeks passed, Feliciano enjoyed his maths classes, but not for the right reasons. Oh ho ho ho. He wasn't doing any better in the quick test Mr. Beierschmidt gave out every week. His friends tried to help him, which led to Kiku in Feliciano's room trying to help him yet again. He was beginning to consider his friend a total lost. A total lost? A total loss, you mean? There were times where Feliciano hugged Kiku and started to cry because he was a failure. The Japanese boy was still surprised about the behavior of his friend. Kiku, what am I going to do? I don't understand a thing and the exam is next Friday. Feliciano was in tears while frantically saying this. Then you should try to study a little, replied Kiku. Babe, I try, but I always get distracted. How can that even be possible, bastard? Said a voice from behind them. It was Romano, who had entered the room with some snacks for the two. You know what Grandpa said. You can't fail in math or you won't be able to apply to that art school you want to go to. Art school. Yet another starving artist for the streets. Why can't the maths be easier? I hate it, Feliciano complained. Kiku looked at the Italian. I thought you liked the class. I do, it just... Feliciano began to explain, but Romano cut him off. You're stupid. Feliciano began to cry again. You shouldn't say things like that to your brother, scolded Kiku, for he had some siblings himself. But it's true. He's had the same problem with the subject before, replied Romano. Kiku saw the situation. It wasn't worth to continue with lesson for today. We can continue tomorrow, Feliciano. Try to finish what's left as a homework on your own, please. He packed up his stuff and left the room. Kiku waved goodbye to the brothers as he left the room. Romano put his hand on Feliciano's shoulder and said, Sorry for what I said. I think you must give your best try as this is so difficult for you. Fratello, I tried, whined Feliciano. No, you haven't. You always wait for Kiku or Elizabeth to finish their homework so you can copy theirs. Feliciano looked down at his feet. It was true. He was so into his fantasy with his teacher that he had forgot all about the class. You're right, I'll try to do my best. Feliciano now had a more positive-looking expression on his face. Something clicked in Romano's mind. He thought aloud. I must go now. Finish that now. He turned to walk out of the room when Feliciano asked, Where are you going, Romano? I have exams too, idiota, replied Romano. Is it your foreign language class? Have you learned something new? Feliciano questioned. Of course I have, but the exam is tomorrow, sighed Romano as he thought about the topics covered in the exam. Sometimes I wish I was in your class, sighed Feliciano. Why do you say that? Asked the one with the permanent scowl. The teacher is really cute, don't you think? Replied Feliciano. Of course not. Stop saying those things, idiot. People could make fun of you for it. Romano was blushing. It was a great spectacle. Feliciano enjoyed doing this to his brother. Come on, Fratello, he's so cheery and dashing. Shut the fuck up! Romano rushed out of Feliciano's room. Feliciano giggled, but soon he saw the unsolved equations litter across the desk. He stopped and let out a sigh. Studying could be so depressing. Perhaps working in his bed could make it easier. Wrong. He fell asleep within seconds and began dreaming of a certain German man again. Ooh. The next day, after classes were finally over, Feliciano over to Elisabetta, Heracles, and Kiku. Hello, Feliciano, Elisabetta said as she hugged Feliciano. They had become really close to each other, and they even have the same kind of personality. Are we studying together tonight? The trio looked at each other. Kiku answered, Feliciano, we can't. We have another exam tomorrow. That's why we hoped you on weekend. Feliciano's smile dropped. Right, you did tell me. Sorry, I forgot. I could make a little space for you, said Elisabetta. No, it's not fair that you should have to give up your valuable time for me. You have other things to do, explained Feliciano. Or maybe you could come to my house in the afternoon. Kiko and I will be studying for history, suggested Heracles. Oh, will you now? No, don't worry, guys. I'd appreciate you want to help me, though, said Feliciano. They said their goodbyes and farewells and went off into other directions. Ooh-woo. I don't understand this. He threw his pen down at the paper. Feliciano was now desperate. He couldn't fail. He wasn't up to losing the chance to apply for his art college. He somehow didn't want to disappoint Mr. Beilschmidt. After all, he wasn't a bad teacher. Feliciano was the sucky student. If I could be smarter, he would pay more attention to me. He hid his face in his pillow. Everything seemed lost, unless... He looked around his room, then closed the door. Mr. Beilschmidt said that parts of the exam would be taken from certain exercises of the homework he handed out. Feliciano knew this wasn't right, but his brain didn't want to cooperate. He copied every problem that had to do with the exam on the piece of paper, then bent it carefully and hid it in his book. After he finished, he went to bed. Cheating is bad, kids! He lay there knowing it was too early for him to fall asleep, until somebody knocked on his door. He heard the door open. He knew who it was, but he didn't turn to look at them. Feliciano, are you having dinner with us? Asked Arsenios, who was at the door. I'm really tired, Grandpa. I'd rather sleep, replied Feliciano. Are you feeling all right? Even though Feliciano was thin, he could eat just as much as Arsenios. Yes, but I'm not really hungry, that's all. Okay then, if you're not feeling well, I'm fine, really, Feliciano forced a smile. Fine then. Arsenios ruffled Feliciano's hair and turned to leave the room. Good night, grandson. Night. Feliciano did not sleep at all last night. During the test, Feliciano could see how even Kiko and Elisabetta were having a hard time with some of the questions. Mr. Beilschmidt was checking over some notes on his desk, reading glasses perched upon his nose. Probably lower grade classes homework, thought Feliciano. There were still 30 minutes of the hour left for the class to finish the test, but Feliciano hadn't answered anything. Seeing the somewhat perfect opportunity, he pulled out the cheat sheets out of his sleeve. It was exactly as Mr. Beilschmidt said. Some of the exercises from his homework were on the test. As discreet as he could, Feliciano began to copy the answers from the cheat sheets onto his test, whilst looking at the professor every few minutes. Oh gosh, we all know what's going to happen. After a while, there was only a few minutes left until the finishing time of the test. There were just 3 other students with him in the classroom. Feliciano was missing only one answer when Mr. Beilschmidt announced, "Time is up, bring me your test." The other 2 gave their exam and left the room. When Feliciano reached the desk, he left the sheet of paper on the table. Mr. Beilschmidt looked at him and asked, "Why did you do it, Feliciano?" What? Asked Feliciano. His "vey" wasn't as tearful as it was before. I noticed since the beginning of the exams you are copying answers from pieces of paper hidden up your sleeves. It looks like as if you copy the answers off of the homework I gave out. Your answers will be wrong because the problems were the same but with different values, grimly explained Mr. Beilschmidt. Feliciano felt tears sting at the corner of his eyes. This couldn't be any worser than it already was. Well, he was about to cry and embarrass himself. Why didn't you ask for help from your friends? Asked Ludwig. I did. His voice was now cracking. But I'm so stupid to get it. No, you're not. Ludwig spoke honestly. I know it's hard for you to understand. You didn't do very well in the quick test. Feliciano couldn't look at him. It was too difficult for him. I must say I am disappointed for you for having to turn to this instead of asking me for help. Feliciano looked up at the teacher, surprised at what he said. I know I'm scary and the students think so because I'm too serious, but I do care about them. I'm really sorry for what I did, but I was desperate. I just couldn't understand the thing, explained Feliciano, hoping for another chance. Tell you what, I'll let this pass. But as I can't go slower with the rest of the group, I'll give you extra lessons, accessories, if you want to call it, to see where you are failing, said the German man. Extra lessons, you say? Oh, ho, 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 y'all know where this is going. The young boy's face lit up in an instant. It was something that surprised Mr. Beilschmidt. Really? Asked Feliciano excitedly. Yes, but I want you to work hard on the task. I can't do everything for you. It depends mostly on you, replied Ludwig as he took off his reading glasses and put them near the edge of his desk. Yes, grazie, explained Feliciano while shaking Mr. Beilschmidt's hand like a madman. After freeing his hand from the Italian, he said, You may go now. We will begin the extra lessons tomorrow after school. Grazie mille, Mr. Beilschmidt. I give it my best effort. The young Italian ran outside the classroom happily. When the kid is smiling, he changes a lot. He even looks radiant. These were Ludwig's thoughts. Then he slapped himself and came back to reality. I see you finally went nuts because of all this stress, said a voice laced with a thick German accent from the door. Ludwig turned towards the voice and saw Gilbert was standing in the doorway of the classroom. What do you want, Bruder? Ludwig asked the albino standing in the doorway. Well, since my car is at the mechanic, I thought you could give me a ride home, replied Gilbert. But then, how did you get here? All right, I'll be ready in a minute, said Ludwig as he started to shuffle his papers and place them in various drawers. Hola, amigos, could you give me a ride too? Said a cheerful voice laced with a Spanish accent from the door. It was Professor Antonio, who had suddenly appeared. Ludwig sighed. If there was something he hated, it would be having to deal with his brother and his friends at the same time. He pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. Where are you heading, Antonio? Actually, I was going to your place. Me and Gilbo are going to have some drinks since the exam week is finished. Dealing with teenagers is so hard. Sighed Antonio, his vibrant green eyes drooped with sleepiness. You're too easy on them, Antonio. You need to show them who is the boss, started Ludwig as he gave Antonio a meaningful look. And that's where your reputation comes from. Look who's talking, the scary math teacher. Sorry, Lud. But what are you doing in high school? I thought you wanted to work at some fancy college. Gilbert butted in. And actually get paid money. Oh wait, this is England, not America. By the way, why was that little Italian the last one in leaving the classroom? You weren't giving him private lessons, were you? Ludwig's face turned a little pink. Don't say those things, Gilbert. You could get me in trouble. Which Italian, Romanito? Romanito, gosh. He's the cutest boy I've ever seen. Too bad he has that crappy mood. Antonio pondered aloud. Well, we all know where this is heading. He was fantasizing until Gilbert hit him in the head and said, Hey, he is a teenager and you are an adult. You're even worse than me, man. Oh, wait, what? Actually, his name is Feliciano, and I see nothing wrong with his behavior, putting aside the fact that he's a bit too expressive, said Ludwig. Wait, Romano? Expressive? Asked Antonio as he raised an eyebrow. It's because they're twin brothers, Gilbert cut in. What? Ludwig and Antonio said in unison. Yep, twins. As you heard from Antonio, they are both quite pretty. They are pretty popular with the girls. I think Feliciano's into that Elisabetta girl, gossiped Gilbert. I can't believe it. You guys express yourselves like that about your students, muttered Ludwig. Come on, Ludi. Antonio patted the large German man on the back. You're too tense. You should hang out with us tonight. No thanks. I could hardly deal with you two. And I'm sure that French idiot is going with you too, replied Ludwig. Ludwig, don't talk like that about Big Brother's friends, scolded Gilbert in a somewhat meaningful way, yet a playful way. As you wish. If you want me to take you home, let's go now. Ooh, ooh. End of chapter 3.